so judges can spend less time getting it done and more time getting it right. And that sentence alone summarizes the entire pitch. When he told the investor, so judges can spend less time getting it done and more time getting it right, the investor got it.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
How close the gap between founders and tech founders and the investors, the VC, they're far apart.
That's a great question. Look, first and foremost, as tech founders or any founder for that matter, you have to realize that your technology is secondary. Your technology, your product is secondary because that's not the scalable thing about your operation. The scalable thing about your operation is the process transformation you bring to the market, the way things are going to be done differently because of your technology. Now, why is that the scalable thing? Because the process transformation can be repeated across many companies in different verticals across many countries. So allow the investors first and foremost to understand what it is that you're doing differently and how it's going to change people's lives. Only then tap into the technology. Now, I see a lot of founders who are obviously in love with their technology, but this is where they miss the point. At the end of the day, you need to think about your investors as resellers. Why are investors resellers? Because at the end of a meeting with an investor, you're not going to get the first meeting or the second meeting. You're not going to get money. You're not going to get the investment. The investor in front of you will have to understand your story in a way that they can repeat it to the partners of the firm as they discuss in that roundtable which company to invest in. So if they are not able to repeat your story, they are not going to pitch it to their partners and you're done. More than that, the investor in front of you, as you are pitching, he or she are thinking to themselves, how can I help this founder beyond just writing a check? With introductions to customers, new hires, board members, how they're going to help you scale the company, they are not going to be part of it. So the first thing you have to do is to really very quickly establish the right connection and achieve, the visualization in the investor's head of how he or she can help you. And that's very important because many founders, and you pointed out correctly, they dive into the business straight away and the product and the features and they dump features. But investors don't care about it because they know that the product is going to change 100 times in the first year of your company's life. What they want to know is how are you going to change the way people operate daily and how they can help you do it. I'm sorry, Harry, again, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Harry. I'm sorry. The audio is
Okay.
very, very bad.
So what is it for founders? So let me be here. Okay. Right. So what is the perfect pitch?
There is no such perfect pitch. There is never a perfect pitch. Okay. But here is something you need to know about investor pitching. There is an audience in front of you, and that audience needs to be engaged. It needs to be entertained. Not in a circus kind of way, but investors are seeing 500 decks a month. They're seeing 100 founders a month. And if you're going to come in following the traditional pitch deck template of the problem, solution, traction, demo, and you're going to use the same lingo as everyone else, we are reinventing, revolutionizing, reimagining. All you're doing is recycling everything they've heard before. And you're going to lose the attention span right away. So your goal at the beginning of the meeting is to make sure that you are creating the right tension that will elevate the pitch, that will create interest right from the start. Because if engagement goes down in the first second, it's very hard to pick it up. You have to work on that first meeting with investors and get them involved in the pitch. And the way to do it is with what I call the purposeful story. Start with a story that incorporates in it the problem, the solution, the target audience, the market, everything at once. The reason for which you started the company, and let them take it from there.
Example of the story. Can you give us an example?
Yes, I can give you a perfect example, actually. You know, I was at a dinner one time and I was sitting to this high net worth individual. And she asked me, Moti, what do you do for a living? And at that point, I told her, I can tell you what I do for a living, or I can tell you a story. What do you prefer? And she said, I prefer a story. At that point in time, I was the CMO of a company called Carbine that allows 911 call takers to connect with callers through video and text messages for the first time. So I told her the following story. In Stark County, Ohio, 2 weeks ago, a call was received in the 911 center. The 911 call taker said, 911, what's your emergency? There was silence on the other side. He said once again, 911, what's your emergency? There was silence on the other side. As protocol dictates, he asked for the third time, 911, what's your emergency? And this is where he heard heavy breathing on the phone. And he realized the person on the other side cannot communicate. So he used Carbine's technology to send her a text. And he said, and he wrote, this is the 911 operator, what's your emergency? On the other side, a woman texted back and she said, I'm not able to speak. My husband, who got really drunk, severely beaten me and forced me to bed, told me that if I'm going to move, he's going to pull the trigger of the shotgun between us. Please hurry. So the 911 call taker wrote back via text, help is on the way. And the woman, with an amazing sense of resiliency, wrote to him, texted back and said, no sirens, I don't want you to wake him up. The 911 call taker responded, no sirens. A SWAT officer surrounded the house. The 911 call taker texted the woman and said, where in the house are you? And she said, second floor, right to the stairs. She wrote back, second floor, right to the stairs. The SWAT officers quietly entered the house and positioned themselves on the second floor outside of the room. At that point, the 911 call taker texted her and said, on the count of 3, will you be able to step up and run out? She wrote back, yes. And like in a Hollywood movie, he texted 3, 2, 1, go. She stood out, ran out. He gave the order to the SWAT people to get in. They rescued the woman without a single shot being fired. And at that point, I looked at the person next to me and I told her, imagine what would have happened to that lady if she didn't have the ability to text 911. She looked at me and she said, I'm in. And she invested a hefty amount of money in the company. Now look what I've done here. I told you about the problem, the solution, the technology, the target audience, the market, through a story. Imagine if I would have gone the other way and the woman would asked me, what do you do for a living? And I said, I work for a Carbine. Carbine is a cloud security company. It's a public safety company that uses cloud technology and enabling people who call 911 for the first time without their need for an app to communicate via text and video technology. Zero inspiration. The purpose of the story is to allow your audience to visualize the impact you're going to bring to organization. Because I bet that you, Harry, can now go and tell my story. Maybe not precisely as I did, but you'll tell someone, I heard about this amazing company. And it's all you need the investors to do. Can't hear you still.
So, any other example
Another
that
example,
inspired?
yeah, there are plenty of examples. I worked recently with a legal tech company that is bringing AI to the court system in the US. And here is the thing, the founder of the company, who is a lawyer and used to be a court clerk, was in court once, and he saw this woman, Ariel Macha, coming into court. She was trial. She was a legal immigrant who was caught in very uncomfortable circumstances, and she committed some felonies. And in the trial, he saw that she was misjudged and rushed through a trial. And she was supposed to receive 5 to 10 years in prison, but instead she received 30 years in prison. And he asked himself, how come a person can come and go through such a rushed trial and get such a heavy sentence where I know the facts don't justify it? And what he realized is that the court system in the US is crumbling under the pressure. So here is what we told the investors. This is the pitch we created for him. We told the Ariel Macha story and his story, and he said, this is where I realized the judges and lawyers are rushing on the expense of the fate of people, because today in the court system in the US, there are 100 million cases a year. Each judge, there are only 30,000 judges. The 100 million cases are generating 1.4 billion documents for judges to review. That's over 500 documents per day for a judge to review. There is no way a judge can do it with all the other work, court time, logistical work that they have to manage. And what happens is that everyone in the court system in the US are either waiting for trial because the courts are not standing the standard national trial times, or they're rushing through trials. Both scenarios are very bad. So at the end of the day, we created an AI solution that allows judges to summarize briefs very quickly and get the information they need in the right amount of time. And we sealed it with this line. So judges can spend less time getting it done and more time getting it right. And that sentence alone summarizes the entire pitch. When he told the investor, so judges can spend less time getting it done and more time getting it right, the investor got it.
Now, tell us your story. How you become an entrepreneur? What's your story?
Well, before starting my agency, I was the CMO and VP of marketing for many startups, tech startups. And my approach to growing those startups from the founder-led sales stages to millions in ARR was always around content and content strategy. To me, building the right messaging is everything. And I'm a passionate believer in the power of storytelling. And in 2022, when the market was very hard for fundraising, some founders from my network reached out and said, Moti, the way we pitch is it's not going through anymore. And I looked at the way they're pitching and I realized that everyone is pitching the same. We spoke about it before, the pitch deck template, problem, solution, traction, demo, you know it. And it's just boring. It's not inspiring. And here's the truth about investors. Investors are human, just like you and I. Everyone is looking at them as these cold money margin calculating machines, but at the end of the day, they just want to get it. They just want to get it. So I helped a few founders revise their pitch. They raised the funds they needed successfully. And at that point, I decided to start my agency that will focus on investor pitching. From there, we grew to a full-on branding boutique that specializes in storytelling and brand visual development.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.